But this is a story about how in 2018, at the tender age of 44, without an iota of cycling experience between us, not even an overnight test trip, we set off to cycle the world's largest landmass. And aiming east from Istanbul, it took over the next 11 months. We proved that you can accomplish just about anything if you're not in a hurry. Whether transiting the Pamir Highway here at 4,655 meters, or sweating like pigs as we cycled through the highlands in Vietnam. But we loved every single moment of it, the big vistas, the unbelievably wonderful people we met. And we found that life in the saddle really suited us, even on, like here, the tough days. But cycling lets you really absorb the world at a human pace. And because of that, we confronted some pretty bleak realities facing this beautiful planet of ours. And it was moments like our eyes burning from this nuclear winter kind of smog in Thailand caused by fires lit to clear the forest for grazing that really changed things for us. So we knew when we decided to come back to London that our perspectives had changed and how we lived our lives would be different. But it was literally the last road we took just before returning to London that made all the difference, because it led us to a herd of elephants in Thailand and a woman who would crystallize a lot of the lessons we learned on the journey and really change the course of our lives by showing us what we wanted to do with it next and how to do it.
So yes, so pretty much on a whim, we signed up to work as volunteers at Elephant Nature Park. That's a sanctuary for rescued working elephants. And just to give you some context, working elephants spend their lives either logging, carrying tourists, they perform in religious ceremonies, used for entertainment, so performing tricks on the street, during shows. I mean, that's shocking in itself, but the worst thing is that there are only about 45,000 Asian elephants left, and about a third of those are in captivity, and most of them are working in those kind of conditions. So Elephant Nature Park, they rescue them from these really sad situations, and they give them a new lease on life. They give them a safe and happy home, and where they can be elephants. So we signed up and we had absolutely no idea what we'd let ourselves in for. We shoveled a whole load of elephant shit. We stacked piles and piles of fruit and veg. We did all of this in 40 degrees and 80% humidity. We were dusty. We stank to high hell. But the wonderful side of it, of course, is we made friends for life, and we just had the most amazing experience, and we'd definitely do it again. But really, it was the time spent with the elephants. I mean, look at this, getting down on the ground, so close, eye to eye with them, and watching them interact. And it really hit home to us that they're social, sentient, and really emotional beings, and just so much like us, which really made learning what we learned so much harder to bear because of what they have to endure to be working elephants.
Because the point is that elephants are wild creatures like humans, and to make them do something against their will or against their nature, like carrying tourists or wearing a costume, the wild essentially needs to be tortured out of them through a pretty barbaric process called pajan, or the crush box. And this is going to be a tough image, but it's often done with baby elephants, sometimes only 1 or 3 years old. They're captured in the wild, or they're conceived through forced mating, which is essentially tantamount to rape, and they're taken away from their mothers. They're forced into cages, chained in ropes so they can barely move, and then over the next 7 days, 10 days, they're literally beaten hour after hour, because the point is to turn them 100% submissive. And sadly, the horror doesn't end with pajan. Elephants live human lifespans, so they face decades of hard labor carrying saddles, costumes, we said, and all enforced with the bull hook. You'll see it here, or maybe a nail pressed into the sensitive skin behind their ears, just to remind them they're not wild anymore. And a lot of times you can't see this going on in the background.
Yeah, so we know that's really horrible to hear and to see, and I mean, I still get upset seeing that image, and I've seen them lots of times, but We're not just here to tell you a horror story, I promise that. During our time at Elephant Nature Park, we really grew to love and know a number of the elephants individually, as you can see, and we learned so much that really gave us so much hope as well. There's cheeky young Farmai, who David's cuddling at there. She's one of the few elephants at Elephant Nature Park who hasn't had gone through Prajan. She's very cheeky and naughty. She's just like a small child. And I've got a load of stories about her, some of them that feature in my book, my chapter in the book. She's also a central chapter because she really played a big role in transforming us, and we fell madly in love, really, didn't we, with her in particular. But I mean, it's impossible not to fall in love with all of them. I mean, look, big wrinkly butts. They've got these cartoon-like toenails, which, yeah, you can see there, and they love to scratch, and I mean, it's just really hilarious to watch. They're so funny. And, you know, there's so many lovely stories amongst the sad ones. There's another elephant there called Kaboo, and she had her babies taken away from her, but she met another elephant called Chana, who was an adopted elephant, an orphan elephant, and the two of them just bonded straight away, and it's a really beautiful story. So we fell in love with the way they love one another, really. So after 2 weeks, we really could feel that they were tugging at our lives in a direction that we hadn't expected at all. They made real that year's worth of lessons that we'd learnt on the road, and we knew that we wanted to play some kind of role in helping to save them. We knew we wanted to play a role, but we just didn't know how, which is when we met Lek. Oh my God, this pint-sized tornado of a human. So Lek Charlotte founded Elephant Nature Park in 1996 with her husband, Derek Thompson, who you can see there, and they've been rescuing working elephants ever since. So we just happened to have an afternoon just with her. We got to spend it with her, seeing her with the elephants, and it's extraordinary. They treat her like family, which when you think about, you know, the horrific kind of experiences they had, the fact that they love her and trust her and treat her like family is, you know, something to really behold. But Lek, you know, is extraordinary herself, and really, you know, she has seen in her decades of doing this work, rescuing elephants, education programs, huge amounts of cruelty. She's had her own family disown her on TV, so she's been through some tremendous experiences and obstacles and really had to sacrifice a lot. And I think what really struck us, though, profoundly was that she does not fight anger with anger. She approaches it rather with empathy, huge compassion, and she drives change, huge change through education and love. So these elephants that have come from camping, come from these trekking camps, she works with the camps to try and help them actually convert into an ethical business model. So she's a real living example of how successful her approach to activism can be. And she says, you know, we know that this isn't a perfect solution, but at least it is a possible one. It will lead to something better. So I guess really it was just meeting someone that showed us that activism and advocacy done in this way can be really, really profound. So meeting the elephants, meeting Lek, basically we found something that we could put our hearts and minds into, which really just has added so much meaning to our lives.
Yeah, and so to wrap up, you know, sort of this is really the hook. And when we started the journey, we didn't know how it would end. We didn't have a purpose other than just getting on the bikes and getting out there. We did the journey really for us. But the good news is because of Lek and the elephants, we found a purpose beyond just the adventure itself. Meeting the elephants showed us what we wanted to do, and Lek kind of showed us how to do it. So we became ambassadors for Elephant Nature Park to continue the work we started in Thailand. We have sort of a new ethos and life about how we live it that I share in my chapter. And so for us, you know, the journey didn't really end. You know, we brought the journey and the adventure home with us. So thank you very much for your time. You can read our full stories in the chapters. Mine's 49, Act Big, Live Small. Esther's is 48, Under an Elephant's Belly. So maybe try something different and just start reading from the back of the book.